All right, then, everybody's still coming in here. I'll declare a quorum. We posted a notice for a public workshop this morning, so I declare a quorum, and we have opened the meeting, and we have one item on the agenda. That's presentation and discussion regarding the options to purchase new software from Tyler Technologies for the county. Whoever's making the presentation would like to come on up.
Well, Judge, yesterday, I'll start, but I think that there's some more coming.
Okay.
Yesterday, we had, as y'all know, the presentation from Tyler and Odyssey. We presented that to every office that we believe would be impacted by it. And then after that, we immediately had the committee meeting. So we've had 2 committee meetings since y'all authorized us to do that. The discussion yesterday, I think, was very productive. I think overall we've covered a lot of ground. There's things we want to present to y'all for you to understand and know from the presentation yesterday, from our discussion overall. I think at the end of yesterday's committee meeting, the first thing we wanted y'all to be able to do is to hear from the heads of the different departments after they've seen, because when we initially started talking about all this, everybody's position is, well, we don't know what other options there are. We don't know what it would look like moving away from that data. So we want you to hear from the heads of those agencies and how what they see as the good and the bad in going forward in the process. And so with that said, I think that may start us off, and there are more people coming, I believe, based on the discussion yesterday, so.
Good morning, Judge. How are you guys? You guys know Jennifer Aaron. Jennifer's my court coordinator and has been coordinator for quite some time. And she sort of has a lot more to say about this than I do. I will tell you, obviously as a new judge, going through this process and then seeing what the options are moving forward, I hope we can work this out. The things this will do for courts, and you'll hear from the clerks in a minute, are really impressive. For me, a big example is that effectively the flow of paperwork just stops. This moves us into a paperless, not entirely paperless, but for me, I'll be able to go to the bench. I'll be able to go to any bench as long as I've got my laptop, get online, and any file, any motion, any petition, any pleading, or whatever the case may be, I'm going to have access to it. And then I can also electronically sign it and get it to where it needs to go, rather than all the issues we have with paperwork. There's a lot more to this, and so, but I wanted you to hear from Jennifer, who, in our office is dealing with net data, understands net data very well, what it can and can't do, and then she's also seen the demonstration. So you tell her what you think.
So I'm one of the ones who've been here from the beginning with NetD, like since 1996 or 97, whatever it was. So that's all I know is NetD. I've always felt like there's a better option out there, but it's just what we have, so it's what we work with. But I can tell you, talking to other court coordinators, Odyssey is pretty popular with the courts, the counties, but I can specifically talk from a court's perspective. After seeing yesterday's demonstration, I know there's a better option for us to work through Odyssey more efficiently, more effectively. Like Judge was saying, the paperless aspect of it, that's doing away with our court files eventually. That would not happen right away, but cutting out paper, cutting out wear and tear on the printer, toner, that type of thing. And where we can all just communicate essentially through queues, where we don't have to carry paperwork and files back and forth. Is it going to be a learning curve? Absolutely. And I've done the same thing, pretty much the same way for a lot of years. But I think it's worth a try. And I think, everybody, it seems like a simple process, you know, I mean, we're gonna have to all learn it, they're gonna have to come teach us, but I really think it would be worth it to move forward with a better software program. For us, and I know this really won't affect y'all, but we cover Mills County. Mills County is interested in moving forward with Odyssey if we do. And so, in my opinion, they use an even more outdated software than NetD. So, you know, that would help us as the district court tremendously.
What kind of share of the cost from those kind of talking about?
It's, my understanding is, it's not a shared cost, they just do their own thing, we do our own thing, but they want to be able to, because the 35th district includes both of those counties, they would like to have some commonality. They use a program called LGS,
Local Government Solutions,
and so I understand it's even more
outdated. than
outdated than NetD. And so what they're going to do, obviously, in the district, they're much the smaller county, so they're going to kind of wait and see what you all decide to do here. And then if we do make this move, then I think they'll start to have a serious conversation out there. And that obviously would be beneficial to the district court, the district attorney, because we're the ones that cover both of those counties. And so as far as sharing the cost, now, I mean, I guess we could ask and have that conversation, you know, because we do have that in some of the things we do for our supplies and things. They have a percentage they pitch in.
Both counties did it, and maybe we get a better price on the whole deal.
Sure, and I don't know that we've even talked, that that's even been brought up.
So I've herded so many cats. I meant to talk to Sonia Smith, the district clerk over there. I did not get in touch with her in time. But our representative from Odyssey is actually here this morning, and she was just letting me know that it is possible that if they want to come on board, that could affect our bid in a positive way for Brown County. So,
And I want y'all to hear from all of them, but honestly, I think this is, and I don't know if you guys want to take the time to look at some of this too. This would be a good look for the county. You know, it's sort of like, you know, there's some, I grew up here. You all obviously know this place well. There's some positive growth and there's some good things going on around here. And when you look around at what's happening across the state, some pretty interesting statistics they shared with us that this particular company is in over a third of the counties, but it has all of the big counties. And I think that it just sends a message to the public, to the court system statewide that we're serious about what we do. And you know, we're not just going to kind of labor in the back of everything. And so I think it's something to seriously consider. I get it, it's expensive, but you know, the idea here is that if you could fit it somehow into that COVID money, that will help lessen the big upfront cost. And I think you can hear a little bit from them too, that they can spread this cost out over several, maybe even up to 3 budget cycles to make it fit. So from our perspective, we're 100% behind this. And not everybody is. You'll hear from everybody here, but I really hope it's something you seriously consider. So any questions for the courts on this?
Shane's in the jury.
He's in a trial.
We got a jury trial going this morning, so I think they're getting close to being done now. Thank you, guys.
well, I can jump in again and tell you a little bit about the DA's side of what we saw, and Michael as well. There's a couple things that I think it's hard to know where we struggle with as an office if you're not in the office. During COVID, when courts were shut down, we were trying to work out a green please to try and help with the backlog because we couldn't do anything contested. So we would go bang on defense attorneys' doors and say, all right, what cases can we work out without hearings? And then we'd have a list for the court. And the solution we had to come up with to convey to the court which cases needed to be set for those agreed pleas over Zoom was a Google document. I don't know about y'all, but that causes me a lot of concern security-wise. I mean, we have to be very careful what we put on there. It's not the best secure platform for doing that. It's certainly an awkward solution. And you know, we started out sending emails, but the emails were getting lost in the flutter because there was so much going on. What we saw yesterday in the presentation actually allows inter-office communication about things through a workflow process, where instead of having to go outside of our own secure software to find solutions to communicate, we can simply put things in a queue in the software to tell the court, these are cases we need settings on. I think when we talked before, we mentioned e-filing. One of the things that I think conveys to me that one of the biggest drawbacks in that data is related to efficiency. So y'all pay for us to have a certain number of employees to do the work that needs to be done. The more efficiently we can do our work, the better the end product that you get from us. And in a criminal justice system, that's obviously the goal, is you want the best product that then reflects good convictions based on solid evidence. When we have cases with multiple defendants, or one defendant with multiple cases, let's say 5 cases, and we're getting ready for trial, we have to file a minimum of 2 documents in every case. So that's 10 filings. In the e-file system right now, which is what we have to use in order to file documents, it takes about 5 minutes for each document. It's about 50 minutes of a person's time in a 40-hour work week that is spent just filing documents in one case for one setting. That's horribly inefficient. And that happens over and over and over again. In Odyssey's system, what they showed us yesterday, the process for filing, we can completely eliminate e-filing, and it's about a 30-second process to file a document. So when you start talking about the hundreds of documents that we file every day, you're talking about a significant improvement in our ability to get things done in a timely manner, which then translates into we can actually focus on something other than just clicking and dragging and dropping documents into an e-file process. I printed off a couple things from our old discovery system to kind of let y'all see, if you want to, some of the problems that we had in that data. We don't use this for discovery anymore. We can't upload video. We can't upload audio. This was the quality of the documents that we were uploading, which documents should be simple and easy. And I redacted the case-specific information. But I mean, y'all see this big line that goes through the papers. Documents should be simple. And there's only a couple ways to get them into NetData. They're very complicated. You have to have 3 programs running with NetData at one time. To use NetData, you have to have NetData open, you have to have RVI open to view the document, and then you have to have a print session open in order to be able to print anything out of NetData. So 3 programs all at one time, again, results in our computers slowing down, it results in our computers not working as well, it results in inefficiencies. Y'all have, and I'm gonna kind of jump to one of the things related to the request y'all have for multiple quotes. We have looked at other companies besides Odyssey, I want y'all to know that. Thus far, kind of what we've discovered is there are a limited number of companies that actually cover everything that we as a county need. We asked the sheriff while he was down at his conference, it was last week, to look for other software companies that would cover both RMS as the law enforcement side of it, that would cover both RMS and that would cover courts and financials. He said he could not find any at their conference. LGS that we've just heard about that Mills County has is actually worse than NetData. I have personally seen it and I can attest to that. So I don't think that would be a step forward for us, that would be a step back. NetData is obviously one of the companies. We kind of know the problems there. There is another company called TechShare that our Indigent Defense Office uses. We've done some research into them and we've also asked them for a bid. They have not responded to either Matt or I for request for a bid, and the reason we believe that is there's been some kind of news articles written about them. Dallas County, which was one of their main buy-in counties, has actually left them because of some solvency issues in them and funding their developers. So that they don't seem like a good option just given their lack of responsiveness. I even went outside of the state of Texas and Googled. I found a company that does theoretically cover more than just one specific segment, but they're in the developmental phase and they don't have any ports that are live in. And I don't feel like that's a good company to bring to y'all and say, you know, we think this is a good option for the county.
And one thing that Alicia and I both did was travel to other places and look at their in-house systems. And one of those places was Midland, Texas, who had a custom system set up where they ran their own fiber optic cable and all that kind of thing. And basically what we gathered from that, while it was a very impressive system, was that it was cost prohibitive because just the cost of running the fiber optic cable between law enforcement center and the courthouse was, several $1 million. And so,
And they were just across the street from each other. They weren't.
and so, some system like that, and you don't even have the software development on top of that yet. That's just, infrastructure build up to get to that. So, a system like that clearly would not be in the wheelhouse just from a cost perspective on that. So we looked at a number of different ways of going about trying to solve the issue of creating a better system for the end.
Another thing that I thought spoke very highly of Tyler, and I did not know this before we started kind of going through all this, other local entities within our county are already on a Tyler-based system. The city of Early is on Tyler, and I believe Tony Aaron is here from the city of Early. One of the reasons we asked him to come is he is one of the few people locally that has experience both in net data and in a Tyler system. So we felt like he had a unique perspective that would be worth hearing from. The city of Brownwood is actually also on Tyler. They handle their financials, and the police department is also on Tyler. So when we start talking about integrating systems together, it certainly was very encouraging from our perspective, where we have law enforcement file with us electronically, that one of the agencies that we want to integrate with is already on the system that we're looking at, which would certainly make integration easier. For those of you who don't know a whole lot about integration software, if they're not already compatible, you have to pay for the integration. And so if we went with a company other than Odyssey or Tyler, we would have to talk then about how we're going to integrate Tyler from the Brownwood Police Department with our office if we were on Tyler. And I use the word Tyler and Odyssey, it's the same company. Tyler's the big parent company. Odyssey is the court side of Tyler. I think the other thing from our side that we want to make sure you're aware of, we talked when we first presented this to y'all about the redundancy in cost to the county. There's been a lot of discussion with the sheriff's office about, they're going to Southern. What does that mean in practicality? And in practicality, what that means right now is that they still have to have a net data terminal, and they will have to do double entry. They will have to enter their jail booking information into their Southern terminal, and then they'll have to have that same employee then move over to another station, or may all be on the same computer, but switch programs and enter the exact same information into net data, because there's no other way for the court to get it. Net data cannot integrate with Southern. We've tried to integrate our software with net data for a long, long time, spent hours and hours working with the software company, and it does not work. You cannot integrate net data with other software companies in any meaningful sort of way. So they're going to have an employee enter the exact same data twice, which means we also have to keep the license open for the sheriff's office for net data, which means we're paying administrative costs there. I know y'all have heard Michael and I come and ask you for funding for software. We told you about, we invest in 3 different software companies functionally. Y'all invest in one for us. We're still half in that data because the courts are in that data, so we can't cut them off and you can't stop paying for our license because we have to be able to see what the court says. But then we also pay for our own discovery software. The discovery software that we use cannot do a workflow process. And so we come every year asking you to pay for our workflow software, a couple grand every year. And the demonstration we saw yesterday with Tyler covers everything. We could move from 3 software systems down to 1. So from our perspective, that is a huge benefit and worthwhile.
And that would be our plan, to not stick with our, even though we've had some capital outlay and so forth, our software to pay for maintenance in advance, it would be our intention to go fully invested into the Tyler Odyssey system and not worry about those additional extras of trying to have workflow and so forth, and just, mainline everybody else. So that would be our plan for that for long-term planning purposes.
Mr. Kelton couldn't be here today, but he had a question he wanted to answer. He wanted to talk to someone from NetData to see what they actually think is going to happen, if they're going to be supporting it, or, if there's going to be upgrades, whatever. So,
I can tell you our experience with NetData on that issue, which I think is all I can really speak to. But we try to do online discovery through NetData.
I understand. I'm just telling you, if Mr. Kelton wants to speak to someone from NetData and have them explain to him,
Sure.
that's what he wants. He wants to look at it first.
Absolutely, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the reason I wanted to explain our experience is because the concern that we've had is when we were doing online discovery with NetData, we have discussions with them repeatedly about potential upgrades and, improvements and developments that we'd like to see. And there were a lot of promises, but ultimately we gave up because of.
And he expressed it to me and wanted me to tell you that he understands, the problems, but he wants someone from NetData to tell him that, not dispute, or anyone else that's been using it. He wants to talk to someone from NetData. Believe me, he'll put him on the spot. And,
And I know Shane's not here to address that, but I was sitting at a table with Shane yesterday, along with some Tyler representatives, and Shane's comments in my presence was along the lines of, we've been dealing with NetData now for 20+ years, and it's not a good product. We've been wanting to ditch that forever. And so I can assume from that, based on the comments that I heard Shane make, that he would be along the same page. And if he's contrary to that, then he would need to come here and express that. But that was the comments that he made in my presence yesterday, and then we were having lunch. So, and just to echo what she said, just looking at the bells and whistles and what they can do in the demonstration and so forth, just on little things like grand jury, it expedites it so quick and makes it so simplified and easy. And quite frankly, we never have to get a file, a document with anybody. It's a matter of pushing the button and sending it to them, and they receive it and so forth. So it really is now technology and not 1980s technology being revamped and so forth. So thank you, guys.
Does Sam's office use all of this?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, he would be here speaking as well, but he's trying to finish up the jury trial right now.
my understanding is he completely supports and believes that we need to transition as well. He didn't see the demonstration yesterday because of the jury trial, but I believe based on previous discussions that he agrees. So.
All right, I'm going to talk purely from the technology standpoint. I have some opinions about software and usability and things like that, but I'm going to let who actually use it day to day address that stuff. I'm going to tell you what I liked about Tyler and what I've seen. first of all, in the IT world, we talk about software in two terms, front end and back end. Front end is the piece that everyone uses on their computers every day. Back end is the part that runs on the server, that takes care of the database. It's basically all the bells and whistles that's going on under the software where they're working in. I am very impressed with their back end technology, which will be my end of the system. They are in our proposal right now. We are talking about going to a cloud-based system. Cloud-based is always scary. It's always a scary word, and I know Joel specifically is very, he's a lot real leery of cloud-based stuff. But it's going to do a lot for us in general. First of all, it's going to increase our IT efficiency in general. Because what's going to happen is, right now we have an on-premise server. We have a server that runs that data that's sitting in there. That data center works. We pay maintenance on that hardware, not just pay maintenance for the software, but we also pay maintenance on the hardware. So we're basically paying them to help fix it, but that only includes 2 visits a year. And we're about to have to shell out about $1,000 because there's a small part on the server that they emailed me about last week that is now failing, that they're gonna have to come out and replace. And we've already used our 2 visits this year. So we're gonna have to pay nearly $1,000 to get that fixed. And unfortunately, it's not something we could wait until we merge with a new system. So we have those kind of yearly costs involved with an on-premise server. We have overhead related to that server. There's also another piece of equipment that they use to connect to the NetData server on our side, where they can support it, that we have to pay yearly maintenance on. It's about $1,500 a year. For the Lombard, whatever it is. I don't know if you've got that. It's about $1,500 a year. And with an on-premise server, of course, we have the increased risk of downtime. We have a power outage, or if the server failed. If part of the server failed, if the server went down, then we would be down until they could get here, replace the part, and get the server back up. Sometimes that can be, in the past, that's been up to 2 days sometimes when we've had a drive failure on the server. There was one time specifically that we were up here pretty much all night waiting for someone to drive something down from Dallas. We got it about 3 a.m. to fix something. All of that will go away because Tyler will be hosting this on their servers, on their data, in their data center. They will be handling security. They will be handling disaster recovery. Of course, they're going to be hosting this in a server cluster, which means if one of their servers fails, one of the other ones just picks right back up and keeps going because they have the infrastructure to handle multiple. Sorry, and we're talking usually. Do you know how many servers you'll have in your data centers? Given the amount of data they handle, it's probably hundreds. And I am really impressed with the fact that they're talking about 1/3 of the counties in the state, including most of the big counties. If they're trusting their data to Tyler, I'm willing to trust our data to Tyler.
Have you talked to any of the other counties?
I have spoken with, I talked to Matagorda County, who is on Tyler. Isn't that right? Is it Matagorda County? Is Chris Piker? I think you know him? Yeah. I spoke with Matagorda County. I'm on a committee with CERA called the Technology Advisory Committee, which is it's comprised of several county IT people across the state. And I've had some discussions with them in our meetings. We meet on Zoom once a month. And I've had some discussions with them about it, and they're all very favorable towards Tyler, and several of them are on Tyler. So I see a lot of trust there when it comes to data security, disaster recovery, things like that. It's going to, when we talk about security from an IT standpoint, we talk about what we call an attack surface or a risk surface. And by going this direction, it decreases our risk in the IT standpoint significantly from what we have right now. What we have right now is duct tape and baling wire efficient tunnel. maybe not. Now that's just from the server standpoint. Now as an IT professional, we see software companies in a light of, when you get in this industry for a certain period of time and you see software companies come and go. NetData just went through an acquisition from a vertical integration company, which means that they were acquired by a company that acquires, they basically acquire many different software companies and basically try to smash them together. Lots of times when we see that, they cannibalize the companies that they buy and then they push them. Will that happen this case? I mean, it happens. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes these guys will pick and choose the best parts of each piece of software and put it together in one big, good piece of software. But that takes time. And time is something that a lot of people here are running out of patience with that. NetData has made promises to me and many other people that they're going to be around for a long time. Nothing's going to change. And that's enough for some people to get those assurances. It's really not for me, because the number of times we have seen this happen in the software industry already makes me cautious and a little anxious about it. Their future continuity, in my mind, is in doubt, because we don't know what's going to happen. They're still in the early stages of this vertical integration. We don't know what's going to happen with them. And certainty is something I really like. And I'm not a big fan of the level of uncertainty we have with them right now, in general. And with Tyler, the other thing I have seen that I don't see with NetData is a commitment to innovation and keeping the software updated from both a usability standpoint and a functionality standpoint. NetData, I haven't seen any innovation out of NetData since I've been here. It's been 10 years. And I worked on NetData for 5 years before that, and it's been the same. The technology behind it has been the same for 15 years. And in the software world, that's a long time. And that just tells me that they are real interested in maintaining status quo. Which, I mean, in the last year has told us that the status quo is not really a thing anymore. This world is very different than the world we lived in 2 years ago. And Tyler has shown themselves to be flexible, to be willing to make the modifications they need to keep up with the current needs of their customers. Whereas what I've seen from NetData is just they want to leave it the same. And they're not interested necessarily in moving forward with a lot of technology. They've added features here and there. They've added things when they've had to. They've added things when people have paid for it. But what I'm seeing from Tyler is that they're adding things of their own accord. They're innovating on their software because they are constantly developing that software and trying to make it better. And I don't see that. And so that gives me a lot of certainty also for the future, that if we committed to Tyler, that they would essentially be committing to us. And then lastly, I really like their options for remote access. We're heading here into another period where we don't know what's going to happen with COVID soon. We might see some more work from home things come along. Their ability to have our employees be able to get into the software from somewhere other than the office is very, very streamlined and easy to use and easy to understand, and it's going to help a lot of people. And we have a lot of people that move around. I mean, even the indigent defense alone, when they move back and forth from the jail or various other places, sometimes they need access to NetData in places where they can't get access to NetData. Another good example of that is the in-car systems. When they do RMS, and even when they're running Southern software, they might need to be pulling information from NetData or from our system, whether it's NetData or Tyler, And this is gonna really streamline that process, and I really like that look of it because that kind of access is going to be more important as we move forward in the future. So I see a lot of things where Tyler is getting ahead of the game on a lot of our needs. So I'm impressed with it from that standpoint. You know, as far as usability of the software, we've heard various and different things. I think that's normal. There's a lot of people who are very pleased with how the software works when you're in it, how it looks, how easy it is to get around in it, basic usability. And there's some people who aren't because they're a lot more used to what we have, and that's pretty standard. And we'll probably do that. And I think that's pretty good. And that's all I got. That's my list. So.
What other, give me a list or a few examples of other counties that are already using this system.
Who are using the systems? ERAF just moved to them. Matagorda is one I know specifically is one that I talked to extensively. Their IT guy's name is Chris Piker. He's very vocal about about his opinions, and he's been pleased with them, and especially has not been very fond of that data.
I imagine that the rep from the company can.
Oh, she can rattle off, yeah, a bunch of people. Those are the two that I know specifically that I have talked to, had discussions with. So, but I'll let her attest to that more if you'd like. Any other questions for me?
You've talked to those two, their IT guys from those two departments, from those two counties?
Yes, yeah. So they're all pretty happy with it. I mean, ERAF is still early in their transition, I believe. Have they gone fully
No,
yet?
they're still in their implementation on the court side. They are live on other products with Odyssey, such as their auditor's office fully uses our software. Their county clerk has it for land and records. Hood County is also one that's nearby, Parker County. All of those are current Odyssey clients. And Hood County is important because they actually selected Odyssey for their district clerk's office about probably 8 years ago, maybe a little bit more. And the rest of the county was on NetData, and they actually just selected in June of this year to get rid of the data altogether. And the entire county is moving to Odyssey at this point in time, and their auditor already uses our software. They have our land and records as well. So they'll be a full Odyssey client and won't use NetData anymore.
Hey, how are y'all this morning?
Good morning.
I just kind of wanted to tell you what we got, or what I bought. I brought my ladies down with me and we all looked at it. Currently, we have to go through RBI, which is like a third party to get images digitized for the data. And through Odyssey, we wouldn't just automatically, and it's integrated. Currently, we're not integrated. So we still have to do everything manual. We wouldn't even have to go to e-file. We wouldn't even have to log on to e-file. We could go directly to through Odyssey and check e-file. It comes through. They're integrated. Not to mention when a case comes through on e-file, it automatically gives it a case number. It automatically moves the document from e-file into Odyssey, which would be our system, and it automatically charges things up, charges all the fees up. So there's no room for clerk error, which, believe it or not, monthly we have to deal with clerk error, or daily we have to deal with clerk errors. So that was impressive to me. The CGIS reporting is time consuming through NetData, and it's not accurate. As Alicia said, they have had to go to a different system. And as y'all well know, that we have to be 90% or above for us to receive grant funding. So that's a huge thing. And my people, and insurance people, and the sheriff's office, we're all trying to stay, as current as we can on that CGIS. And when you have marks against you with NetData, you have to go outside of NetData, online to CGIS, and do some error reporting and error fixing because he just doesn't always report things correctly. So can you piggyback on that, Sharon? You have it? Okay. So we have to go through CJIS to remedy the problems. So I see that being a huge issue that would help us, that would help the county, that would help us be more compliant because, you know, that's important. And I'm just gonna say this, to me, right now, currently, we're all doing different things and we're all on the same team, okay? And we all have the same goal in mind. Well, if the VA's doing this and the sheriff's doing this and we're doing this, it makes it more difficult and it, yes, we have the same goal, but it's a challenge, you know? I think if we were all on the same system, it would be a whole lot less challenge to all of us. So, it just seems weird, it just seems difficult that the SO would be on a different system than, you know, it's just gonna make a challenge for our office. I'm speaking for my office, okay? Because we rely on the DA and the sheriff's office a lot. And the JP, you know, that's huge too. So I think I mentioned that with net data, we're not integrated. And with Odyssey, we would be, which would take a lot of time. Like Alicia said, my girls, let me kind of explain the integration thing. With integration, it means it would just be a seamless thing in a quick instant, okay, when you accept an e-file, okay? Right now, my girls have to accept it, they have to print it out, they have to charge it up. So it's like it'd be like a 5-second, not even maybe 5 seconds, maybe a second or two transaction versus a 15-minute, you know? So that was huge to me. We can get more done. It would allow my people more time to scan and back scan and do things that they're not currently able to do. So, and the jury package was dreaming. That's all I can say. I mean, right now, we are doing jury manually. And it's a challenge in the day of technology. You know, I have people asking me, well, do you do anything web-based? No, we don't. We could. NetData offers a web-based program, but it's not near as impressive as what I've seen. It would cost extra money, of course, for us to do it, and it didn't impress me to the point where I thought, well, it wouldn't change really much what we're doing. Honestly, it wouldn't save us much time. So currently, we have to do jury manually, which means, and then to add another layer of difficulty to my office is that we have to be off-site. We have to be away from the courthouse, so we have travel time. And time is of the essence because when we're trying to pick a jury, there's the travel time, and then we have to create a strike list, and then we have to make copies of the cards. There's a process, and in the shuffling of the cards, okay, well, that takes a good hour or two, and then you have the travel time, okay? With a click of a button, you can have your list. And if they want a second shuffle, click of a button. I mean, versus an hour's worth of work, right? And all we have to do is work it out. So that's hugely impressive. And right now we manually, which is not a problem. We don't mind doing it. I mean, it's not a problem, but right now we're manually greeting our jurors and we're manually doing everything. Well, with this, we could just check them off. They could come in, there's a scanner to check them in. In other words, we wouldn't have to manually check them in. The computer would check them in and keep us a list of who's here. It would be a matter of just checking them off. It would make juries so much more simple for our office and for the judge's office and the judges and the jurors. They do a lot of waiting around on us. And and their time is important. We have to consider that. Currently, the judges are looking at a judge's package, Smart Bench, that would enable them to do some of the things that Odyssey provides through NetData, and it's pricey. And they were looking at that because they really need to be able to view files electronically. We have 2 associate judges that are not located in Brown County that have to come from other areas to serve our people. And currently, they're having to travel so that they can access the files physically. I have tried and tried and tried and tried through NetData and through Matt, Matt can attest to this, to get them access to the records so that they don't have to travel. With COVID and Zoom, they could stay where they are remotely, access the files and hold their hearings and not even have to be in Brown County. So to me, that would be a huge COVID mitigation thing. But they need access to our records electronically anyway, because that's where our society, that's where we have to stay up with things. And that's where we're headed. We're headed to paperless, and we're headed to electronic. And there's good and bad in that. You know, there's good and bad in everything, but the good far outweighs the bad, in my opinion. When you have an electronic digitized version of a file, that saves that paper from being destroyed in a fire and a flood. You've always got backup. I mean, and Mason County, their courthouse burnt down. What would have happened? And praise the Lord, the records weren't there. It was by the grace of God that their records were not in that courthouse. We would be in trouble. You know, we're trying, like, desperately trying to get things digitized, but, you know, we only started really digitizing everything when I took office. And so it's a process, and there's a lot of back scanning that my girls do. And if we could save time here, then it would allow them time here to do more back scanning and things that are really necessary to digitize things. That's our goal. Currently, we have tried on numerous occasions, like I said, numerous occasions to get access for CPS, for our CPS judges. And with Odyssey, they get access on records anywhere. And that's key, that's really important. I think that the court needs to be able to have the access to the records at any time. Especially with COVID on the rise, because you never know. We just never know. Where you know, if they have to do a Zoom meeting from home for quarantine or whatever. So it would just be a huge benefit for the county. Right now, we have to email documents, which is not really an efficient process. I spoke with Judge Banks, who is our CPS judge, who comes about every Thursday, and has hearings in the county courtroom, as you well know. And they have Odyssey in San Angelo, which is Congregating County, and he swears by it. And he gave me permission to tell y'all that he endorses the Odyssey programs, the Odyssey programs and their system. He said it wouldn't be a learning curve for him, and it would make his job a whole lot easier. And we also have an AG judge that I'm sure it would make his job easier too. So that's what I have to say. And I just did want to share with you some counties that have converted from NetData to Odyssey that are happy. Because I've gone on listserv. Sharon and I have a resource which is called listserv, and it's a clerk network, and we can ask. And all the ones I've asked that have Odyssey are very pleased. I've not heard anything really negative. The only thing negative I've heard is the cost, you know, and we get what we pay for. You know, my dad had an old saying, you get what you pay for. And so I just would urge you to really strongly think about it, because I think it would, in the long run, I think it will be a huge benefit and a huge blessing. Some of the other counties that have converted from NetData are Hunt, Chambers, Liberty, Poe, Johnson, Erath, Galveston, and Hood.
And you personally have talked to some of these?
Yes,
And
I have. I've reached out
you
to,
had any negatives?
any what?
Any negatives?
The only negative I've heard was if the transition process couldn't be fast enough. So, and like I said, some people said, well, these two are so expensive, you know? Anyway.
I just spoke to, an Erath County commissioner said they just switched and they're still working through it. And he said that, so far it's much better.
And I did speak with Wanda Greer, who is their district clerk, and that's what she said to me. That's the one that said, well, I wish the transition would be a little quicker. You know, that's the only negative, but it is what it is. When you have to type stuff, you have to transfer it over. So, Sharon, did you have anything?
Well, I'm probably the oldest office head, and change is hard. And I usually run from change, but I believe this would be a positive for the county. I believe we'd be what you call uptown if we had this high cost away, because it is such a progressive program, and they just keep it up to date, and that's very important because their debt doesn't keep it up to date. And they're always looking for ways to improve, and there'll always be a step ahead of us. My office is a little different. We'll have to have 2 programs. We'll have to have Tyler Eagle for land records and vitals, and then we'll have to have Honesty for courts. So that's a really big challenge, but my employees sat in on the demonstrations, and they really liked it. It's just nothing but an improvement of what we have, and a work easy flow for us. Learning curve is nobody wants to change, or they don't when you're my age. But I think this is a good change for Brown County, and it'll really benefit the county. And cost the aspect of people when they view our county and say, wow, they got all this. Because it is expensive, but it's worth it. Like I said, you get what you pay for. But my girls were very impressed. It's almost like the touch of the button and you get things. For nowadays, it takes you forever to get a printout or anything. You know, our state reports are a touch of the button. We send letters to people just with a touch of the button. So type them, we type them in our forms generator. Birth certificates, death certificates, and marriage license are all through the program that we keep bringing up. We have to go and take 7 to bring over birth and death records from the state. They're trying to get integrated with that, and I believe we will. And I just don't see them ever going out of business.
Cheryl, you're district clerk, so you have Mills County also, right? You
No, I
have,
don't have Mills County. That's Sonia Scott who has Mills County. But she and I are very, very closely connected because we work together. You know, she has questions for me and I
that's
will.
what I'm gonna ask.
Okay.
Is there a district clerk office in Mills County?
Uh-huh.
You just said yes. But I'm kind of lost there because there should just be one district clerk.
Well,
Way I,
they're 2 different counties.
see, I know it's different counties, but Mills County and Brown County is one district.
Right.
So it's one of the screwy Texas legislature, I don't know what you call it. But in their infinite wisdom, I guess there's 2 district clerks, what I'm getting at. So, and that just doesn't seem right. Because there's 1 district attorney and 1 district judge. But anyway, but you 2, y'all do work together.
Yes.
So when there's a court in Mills County, court in Brown County.
And honestly, this it is like a Cadillac version, in my opinion. Case management systems. I've never seen anything like it. I'll be honest, I was very resistant, I can tell you. But I was not, I'm like Sharon said, I'm an older person and we kind of tend to be a little more reserved when it comes to change, but you also have to look at the whole picture and be open-minded. And I was very impressed.
Well, my view on change, and I'm an old fat cowboy, is change, just a change, it ain't good. That doesn't work for me. If you're gonna change, it better be for the better, make an improvement.
And this would be.
Yeah, we
So,
have to move forward. We have to
yes,
try to keep up with technology, and that's where we are, and we're not. We're just not. And we make it harder on our people, and our jobs are hard enough. You know, so, and at the end of the day, like I said, we're all on the same team, and we all have the same goal, and if we're all doing different things, it doesn't really make sense. What makes sense is if we're all on the same team and working together and we're unified, and working in a unified fashion.
So it looks to me like everybody, if we was gonna do it at all, everybody needs to do it, like the sheriff's department also.
Right, I think they're hopefully looking to do that. I think that's the end goal.
So my deal would be say, all right, this is gonna cost $1.5 million or whatever it is. What is the other, every little piece of that other costing from the, evidently we've got 3 different software
What's the
companies.
yearly maintenance? What's the yearly maintenance cost?
I don't know the sheriff's office yearly maintenance cost. I know they paid roughly $85,000
For
I
Odyssey.
wanna know what
over
the whole deal for the whole, all of it.
Yeah, what's the yearly
I
maintenance
may
cost?
not be explaining it right, but I'm not, it's costing,
I think
It's an
right now,
upfront
the
cost.
sheriff's office is tied in for how many more years?
2 years.
2 years with the software that they're running. So even if they did switch right now, which they'd still have to pay that 2 more years.
So I talked with the sheriff pretty extensively yesterday. He is supportive, I believe, of the courts moving over to Odyssey, and I'm gonna try to answer your financial question. I'm not sure I will, but let me try, and if I get it wrong, you tell me more. They're locked in for 2 years. They are committed to that, and I think their installation is coming pretty quick. With net data, they will still have to use net data as well as Southern. It'll be the same rule our office was, where you gotta have a foot in both worlds. With Tyler and Odyssey, we have spoken with Polk County, and worked with, talking with them about integrating. You can actually connect, and stop me if this is too technical, I don't wanna get into the weeds on technicalities. You can actually integrate through points of integration between Southern and Tyler. And there is a cost for that, but it was actually remarkably low, in my opinion, given the cost of all the rest of this. It was between $4,000 and $5,000 to pay for the integration between Southern and Odyssey on the levels that Polk County has already integrated on. There's a lot of detailed discussion to be had about, are those the only points of integration we would need or not? And again, I don't want to get into the weeds too far on that, but the discussion right now and the theory behind how this would work is that the sheriff's office, the information that he inputs, that the court system needs, would be able to be pushed electronically from Southern into Tyler. And the good thing about Tyler is they are such a big software company that they have integration tools already set up on this side. We talked with Sherry after we got the information from Polk County about the integration that's going on there. That does affect a little bit of the bid that we got from them previously. I don't think that I have all of the information to give you related to that, because it's a more complex conversation than simply just different things. As it relates to, are you asking about?
I wanna know the total cost of this. And I wanna know the total cost of what we're going through now, what it's costing us to get these people down here y'all are talking about, and you know, I wanna know the difference, I wanna know the difference.
The annual net data
And
maintenance,
that probably can't happen all today, so, I mean,
we've already looked up some of those numbers.
Do you have that figure?
So I have a rough estimate. It kind of depends on a couple of things because we still are having some of those discussions, such as the integration part of it. If the auditor's office moves forward and we have the land records information. And so right now what it looks at is that the annual would be about 250,000. That's with everything though. That's the auditor's package, everything for the county clerk, that includes your jury, all of it. And that also includes the annual fees for the integration stuff as well. And so of course that number may adjust a little bit as we kind of refine exactly what is included in the entire proposal. But that would be around what I would estimate it to fall.
And that's what we're paying now here.
And I would say too that it's not maintenance on our end, it's a SaaS fee. It's an annual fee because that includes us hosting everything. So you don't have any other hardware expenses. So all of these server things that Matt is currently dealing with, that goes away. You won't have any server costs.
So you say it's gonna cost $1 million something, $1.5 million to put in, or thereabouts. I mean,
Correct,
and $250,000 a year to keep it running.
correct.
So what you gotta keep in mind in that discussion though, is we pay, I think it's 260,000 a year annually.
That's
right
what
now
I
to
wanna
them.
know, what the
Yeah, we
difference is,
pay-
Right,
what we're doing now and what it's gonna cost, in other words,
right.
It's probably gonna stay the same.
Yeah.
The
you know what
annual-
I'm talking about.
Yeah, the annual maintenance right now alone was 260, and there was some change, I don't remember the change, but 260.
I mean, I don't need you telling me about it. I need figures where I
Yes.
can look at them.
Sure.
It's about the same.
Yeah,
What
He just wanted-
Mr. Trey was saying, we're driving a Chevrolet right now, and we're looking at Cadillac.
There you
We
go.
won't know the trade difference.
There you go.
yeah, absolutely. And the one number that I think doesn't get reflected in that I want to mention that I'm sure we can get numbers, but I don't, it may take a little bit longer, is the server cost. So that maintenance of the server is not included in the net data annual maintenance, because that would be a cost to each county. I think Tony Aaron had to go, but he wanted to, being somebody who's used both net data and Odyssey, wanted to be available if y'all had questions and.
So our city of Early is on Odyssey right now.
We are on a Tower project, and there's different modules. I believe the Odyssey is a court module.
Correct.
And we do municipal court, but we primarily use Encode and then RMS, which RMS is the law enforcement module, Encode is the financial. So,
And you're happy with it?
yes, sir, yes, sir. And I'll tell you, started here in 1998 with Encode. It's been 7 years since I left the sheriff's office in Singapore, December 7 years. In that time period, the only thing that changed with net data was they went from the old DOS green screen, so they put something called a GUI screen on top of it, which made it look like a Windows, but the background of it was still DOS. And I think there's some people in the courthouse probably still using that green screen.
That's what this looks like. That's DOS.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, give you an idea, just some comparisons, you're thinking city versus county, here's some comparisons. We have a law enforcement, we have municipal court, we have financial needs, we have budget needs, we do payment, we do payroll, all of those systems we do through Tyler. Been very happy with it. I mostly deal in the financial side of it, and so I haven't heard anybody really talk about that, so I thought I'd maybe say some things about that and help you guys out. So one of the things, accountability is huge, especially when it comes to government finances. You guys know that better than anybody. And so one of the things that I really thought was great about the Tyler product, it's pretty simple, but it's the purchase order process. So I left here at the sheriff's office, we were still doing handwritten purchase orders
Still,
and walking them around and handing them off. Well, if I'm asking for a purchase order from you, Judge, we have to communicate on what's left in the budget, and we have to look through all these paperwork, and then we got to go through different steps. All that's done in Tyler. So right now, if I've got somebody from my street department that wants to go buy, some hot mix, they enter in a purchase order. This may be one of the employees that's authorized to do that. It goes to their supervisor for approval, to their department head for approval, and then to the auditor. In our case, it's the CFO. and that approval happens. Well, when they do that, it shows, here's how much you had budgeted. Well, you're asking for $20,000. Let's say it's $100,000 budgeted. You ask for $20,000. Well, it's available, so you can have it. Well, the next time that they go in to do that, it marks and it shows now there's only 80,000, even if that hasn't cleared and been paid. So you can track it a whole lot better. You open it up, you've got multiple departments when you think about all of the different elected offices. So all of that is done through opening up a module, and I'm not going to get into that because I'm not even smart enough to tell you all that. But basically, it's pretty dang simple. I've got line level employees that go in and ask for a purchase order. So on the other side of it, the payroll side of it, we do all of our payroll through there. We pay weekly. We have about 50 employees. It takes maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours if we weekly payroll. Anything we want to put on the check, if we want to account for comp time or overtime or sick leave or vacation, all of that is calculated in there. Very easy to follow. It's honestly, it seems a lot more intuitive than Encode ever did. Now, I never did payroll in Encode, so I can't see exactly in data. And then the other side of it, on the accounts payable or receivable, you keep all your vendors in there, everything is accounted for. It's a very good flowing process. One of the things that I really like about it, and I don't know how you are doing budget, but when I was here at the sheriff's office and we did the budget, it may have come over as a Word document, the Excel document, it may have been, pictures and everything else that the departments just put together. Every department within the county can prepare their budget proposal in Encode. And so they know what they got last year, they can see what they are asking for this year, you guys can see the difference. It's all real time, it's happening. So as they're preparing their budget, any of you can log in and see, well, looks like we're gonna have some increases, we know what the requests are, you can get more educated about those requests even before they're formally presented. So there's some good things that are there. So the last thing I'll say, and then I'll ask the questions, is I appreciate y'all's position more than I ever did at the sheriff's office, because I have a council of 6, and I know the position they sit in, and trying to figure out how to deal with all the great ideas. Because you gotta pay for all of them, or you gotta tell some of them no. And I'm not the smartest person in the world, but it's once said, the mark of a wise person is to listen to those people that are experts in the fields. And I think you've got a pretty dang good representation of experts that are saying, we need to make this change. And it's not just about making it easier, it's about being more efficient and being more accountable. I'll say the cost. The cost to make this migration to Tyler would have been cheaper 5 years ago. It would have been cheaper 10 years ago. It would have been cheaper 15 years ago. It's not going to get any cheaper than it is right now. And so when you're looking for 5 to 10 years from now, are we ready to make that investment now without issuing debt? Are we going to have to make it later when something happens that forces our hand? So that's a hard decision for you guys, because I know the other things that are out there that are just as important. Respect that position. So, any questions?
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know that you actually need to hear from me. I don't understand integration. I don't understand technology. But in fact, we didn't do a lot of investigation about this because we're the lower end court. We just took what we got and we ran with it and did the best we could with it. But having said that, in looking at the Odyssey Tyler technology, what I see beneficial for our court is that we would be able to accept electronic filings in our court, which would be huge for us because in our civil cases, I'm going to say 90% or more of those are from out of town because we're dealing with credit card companies and debt collectors. And so that's going to give them an opportunity to communicate with us electronically without having just the paper flow there. Also, like the district and county attorneys, it's about evidence accepting evidence for the courts. Also, and I think this is the thing that hit me the most was, we now don't have the availability of taking partial payments on tickets. Somebody comes in with a citation, and I gotta tell you, this is kind of embarrassing. We have to tell them, we can't take that, so what you do, we'll give you 30, 60 days to pay, but you go home and every payday, you go down and buy a money order and put Brown County on it, stick it in your drawer. And then when you've collected enough money orders, come pay us. What I see with this technology is the opportunity for people to come in and pay. It keeps up with it, lets us know what they owe. It lets us know when it's due, when the next payment's due. It will generate the letters. A lot of save our ladies a lot of time in generating notices for the different things. So, would it be invaluable for us? Absolutely. And seeing the demonstration certainly is going to save time and hopefully save us from maybe missing some dates on things, because it does track dates. And sometimes we have time-sensitive issues, especially when it comes to evictions and stuff. So I think it would be a wonderful addition for us, especially it would allow us to communicate with somebody, especially indigency and some of those other areas too. And I can see it being beneficial as far as magistrates. Did I miss something?
It's gonna help the judges also look at the folders ahead of time also. Like, they're gonna have access, instead of having to go and pull the folders from the drawers, they will have access to go ahead and go to the system and look at it, because it'll already be in the system. So they're gonna be able to get trained to go and look at it themselves, so that they can go ahead and look at any evidence or anything like that. So right now, Icon's really not user friendly unless you have to be walked through. Like, I had to do, one time I had to walk Brian through it on FaceTime, and it still wasn't user friendly at that point. This will be user friendly. Like, I get 30 cases. Like, yesterday I got 30 cases for the hospital, and this will be easier to file those suits better than what I have to do now. I have to manually enter each one. This one I can just do the plaintiff and then each person, which she showed me yesterday, which was like amazing.
Yeah, I hear everybody says, you don't get this mash this button, or it's already in the system. Somebody's got to put all this in there somewhere. Now, I don't understand enough. I'm like him. I'm not into all this.
It'll have to be put in there. Like, we'll eventually have to do that, but like, how we do it now, it's already in there. You have to go click the button and it's in the system. But how you have to do it now is each case that comes in, you have to automatically put it in individually. With how she was showing yesterday is that if a plaintiff comes in and has multiple cases, like say multiple defendants, but one plaintiff, you wouldn't have to do each case separately. You could do the plaintiff one time, and then the defendants, you could put them in each time, and it just generates it for you instead of putting it in separately each time.
I'm just going to say one thing before I finish, because I've heard a lot of people talk. The one thing that impressed me was they talked about they had set up this several years ago, and the justice offices tried to use it, it just didn't work for them. And so they took it back off the market. They pulled in JPs from across the state. It spent 2 years getting input from them. What do you need for a JP court? And then they brought it back into their system. And they come up and they set it up the way you want it to, what fits you. You don't go in and adapt to their system. They adapt to your office, which to me is phenomenal. If you can get a program or something like that that adapts to how you do things. So anyway, again, I appreciate your time, and glad you guys had to make the decision.
If I may stand, I don't want to cross the I'm not going to stand. And all of us judges are in favor of judge and commissioner. Just because of the model that we saw yesterday, as far as her exercising here, Because we're not, the judges are not entering all this, but it's gonna help us a lot as well. But, we sure like to, if the ladies, administrative clerks are seeing that this is a benefit as far as, time consuming and being user friendly more, I think, it's just better for them. It's gonna make our job a lot easier too. I'm not here to make my job easy, but I'm just saying, for us to be really compatible and work good together, with technology. Price, I mean, I heard the stipulation of the price a while ago, and you know what? I agree with Mr. Aaron a while ago. It's gonna get higher if we don't do it now. So technology, the world's changing every day, and we have to take that into consideration. It don't change in 10 years, it's changing rapidly fast, just every 10 years it has. It's just different. So, but, every judge in the court that I'm talking to, in my court, Judge Hurd, Judge Thompson, Judge Perez, we all support it. So it's worth jumping. Okay, thank you.
I think y'all probably want to hear from Josie. I think she has a different opinion, so.
I'm actually neutral right now. We had our demo yesterday and they hit on a lot of stuff that we don't use. The PO system that Tony was talking about, we would not probably utilize that because we've got to have the hard copy of the bills and stuff in our office for backup, and I don't know how that works when they do that way. They weren't able to explain certain questions that we had. Ann is completely against it, but again, it's hard to change. We have decided that we're going to go talk to the city of Early, the city of Brownwood Finance Department, and see if we can sit with them and look at their setup. And I'm okay with either way.
Go talk to whoever you need to.
Yeah,
Even
I'm
another
going to go
county,
do
if
that.
that's what you got.
Right. So right now, I'm just like, I'm on the fence with our program.
Yeah. Question, or she wants to talk to you, and then if you have questions for her.
So I haven't formally introduced myself to all of you. I'm Sherry Burlington, and I am the county executive for Tyler. I work on our courts and justice side, so primarily with our Odyssey product and our jail and those products. So there's not a lot that I could say that your own people haven't already said. So they were really receptive yesterday when we walked through all of the products and the things, and they understand their pain points and how this would help them. There were a couple of things that I did want to mention. You heard a couple times they talked about the counties that we serve currently. We do have large counties in Texas. There's a couple of them that are fairly large in our area. We have Dallas, we work with Tarrant, we work with Bexar County, a couple of the other large ones. But in addition to those large counties, we work with counties of all sizes. Our product is very scalable. So we work with tiny counties, we work with mid-sized counties, all of them, and they use the same product. And so our product is scalable across these counties. And what's important about that as well is that we have the Texas experience. And so the things that they were talking about, like their CJIS reports and their OCA reports, that's something that we have spent a lot of time working on. We have good relationships with OCA and with DPS so that we can make sure that those things meet state requirements. And then on top of that, with our product, they talked a lot about how we continue to innovate our product and update it. Something that we do is that every year we have a new release of our software. It's an update with the latest and greatest, new features in it, new enhancements. And sometimes it's more or less that we are updating the background of it. So just like with your car every year, you have to change the oil, you have to change your tires. It's the same thing with software. You have to go in and update the software behind it, the technology that it's based on. And that's something that we do every year so that we continue to have the most up-to-date technology. And then also with that, Tyler invests back into the product. And so the new features that our clients see every year, that's our own money that we're putting back in. Usually about $80 million a year just into the Odyssey product itself to make sure that it works the way our clients want it to. We have a Texas user group of all our Texas clients, and their input is what we look at. So they're saying, hey, this is something we really need in the product, And those are things that we then prioritize with our clients. Okay, these are the top 10 things that everybody is needing in the product. And that's what we invest our money in, to make sure that we have that in there so that we continue to serve our clients the way that we want. And so those are the things that I really wanted to hit on because I think that does differ a little bit from some of the other software companies that are out there. But you guys have a lot of counties around you, even those that aren't close to you, that would be a great reference that you can talk to. You can see the product in action. They talked about Erath County, and Erath County, their auditor's office uses our software. The whole county is moving to everything else right now. And they're more than happy to walk you through, what the experience is like going through the project process, using the software. Hood County, like I mentioned, is another great example. Their auditor also uses our software. I know that you plan to talk to the cities here. I would suggest talking to counties as well, just because everybody uses it a little bit differently. And just because there are features in there that you may not use, doesn't mean that there are others that you would benefit from. So some of those features you may not need. And that happens a lot of times. Sometimes we get excited that we have all kinds of fancy things to show, and sometimes we show too much of that instead of
Exactly.
the things that
That's
maybe
why I want to
specific.
go and look. And my main thing is trying to get Ann to look at a payroll
Right.
cycle, because we can adapt to anything, but she's mine.
Understood. And change is hard. Nobody likes change. I don't like change. I'm probably the most resistant usually to change. But it's a change for the better. I think it's usually a good move. So any questions that you have for me specifically right now?
This updating, I mean, is it all in on this 250,000 a year?
Updates are included. You don't pay any extra for updates. Every client gets them every year.
The initial cost, whatever it's gonna be, is it gonna be, and then plus the maintenance yearly fee?
Yes. Every year we'll pay maintenance.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, is the initial cost, how, is that just, does that take care of the maintenance fee for 2 years, 1 year, none?
So the initial cost, there's two factors in there. So you have your software fee, which is your maintenance essentially, your software fee, and then you have your project fee. And so the project fee, when you're looking at that total price tag that was, I don't know, roughly around 1.2 million, I think, somewhere around there. The project fee is actually the cost for us to set up your environment, configure it, work with your team on how the system needs to work, converting your data from NetData and pushing it into Odyssey, all the training that would be involved, all of the project management, all of that part of it. That's a one-time cost, that portion. And that isn't an upfront fee. It's not that, you're gonna sign a contract and we're gonna send you an invoice for that amount. Those fees are invoiced as they occur. And so that's when I think Alicia or Matt mentioned that it's gonna stretch out over a couple of budget years. Because it would start, when the project starts, we would start invoicing for things as they happen. And then you do pay your annual fee upfront every year. And so you have two different costs that go with it.
Well, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Does that 1.2 include that first?
The first,
It did,
does
yes.
it include the first?
It did, yes, sorry if I misunderstood your question.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
So the maintenance fee wouldn't start until the second.
Correct, so you would have that whole project fee with your SaaS fee included, your software fee, and then then it would start the next year. You would just have that fee.
Right.
Any question? Thank you.
Y'all have heard more than you want to hear from me. There's a couple things I wanted to tell you as far as what we discussed in the committee. Because I know we had requested to be on the agenda for Monday. I wanted to communicate to you why, and then what our current thought process was yesterday afternoon. First of all, I appreciate the time you've given us today. I know this is not a regularly scheduled meeting, and I know the mind can only absorb what the seat can endure, and those benches are hard, so I know we're all ready to go. We had initially asked to be on the agenda for Monday, so that we could continue to move the discussion forward as quickly as possible. You know that with the American Rescue Plan Act, there are very short timeframes We are doing our best to move slow enough to do this right, but fast enough to be on a timetable where that is a possibility. That's a pretty delicate balance. Based on what happened yesterday and based on the questions y'all have asked today, we kind of have a list of things that we know we need to do. I want to tell you what I wrote down, because if I missed something from y'all that was something you wanted, let me know so I can get it on my list so I don't forget about it. I know Commissioner Troy, for you would like to see the financials broken down, kind of in a side-by-side comparison. I will work on getting that for you as quickly as I can. One thing that we did want to kind of put the brakes on internally as a committee, for rather than push things through Monday, is we want Josie to have, and Ann to have that opportunity to see more demonstrations and to be able to talk to the city of Early, the city of Brownwood, whatever other, whoever else they want to go see that. Because we would like for them to be invested in it as well. I think you have more than a supermajority of the electeds here telling you that this is necessary, but we would love to be unanimous. I mean, we would love for everybody to agree that this is the right thing to do, so we wanted to give them time for that. And certainly, if Joel would like to talk to Net Data, we can get connected to the person.
I'm just relaying his message. He wants to talk to that.
Sure. Also, one thing that we have been provided as a committee, or some parts of the committee, I don't know if it's gone out to everybody, we do have references from Tyler, from other counties that have it. If y'all would like that, I can forward that on to y'all. If you want to call people, we can give that to y'all.
Like some, it's, how long, what's the longest you've had in that county?
Oh, I'd have to look and see. I'm not sure.
We can definitely get you as many as you want. I'll give you references, and if you tell me any more, I'll go tell her and tell her to give us some more. And the other part of the discussion that really needs to get solidified more before we make a final presentation to you is the discussion about integration with Southern. We need Southern, Tyler, the sheriff's office, and Matt probably all in the same room talking at the same time, as opposed to here's a question here, we get an answer, we run over to somebody else, explain it. That discussion needs to happen in a more unified fashion. So are there things that I missed on that list that y'all would like? I think that the one other thing that I haven't heard this morning, you've heard so much, truthfully, I think that we could pack this courtroom with people to be in here all day long telling you more and more problems with Net Data that would not be repetitive. And I agree. I don't think we need to do that, because I think you get it. I think the thing that hasn't been said, though, is, we've talked about outages a couple times today, and the one that comes to mind is if it isn't broken, don't fix it. And we've been talking about this in kind of the car analogy of, we're driving a Chevrolet, we're looking at a Cadillac. I think what hasn't been said is we're not driving a Chevrolet. We are driving a Chevrolet that has a Ford hood grafted onto it, has a radiator that's leaking, that has seats with holes in it. And what y'all don't see from any of us when we come up here and present is when we talk about making things easier, what we're talking about is the process in our offices is so outdated that we are frequently upstairs angry and frustrated because we can't do our jobs the way we should. We can't get things done correctly. We can't get things done transparently to the community. We cannot, the bedrock of the justice system is transparency. And there's so much criticism of courts in general, law enforcement in general right now. I think you have a group of electeds who want to be transparent and promote better community relations with law enforcement and things like that. But we are just holding things together with baling wire and duct tape, trying to do that. And it's not working well. So we're not bringing you a pitch of, hey, here's a fancy software company that, we want to go buy a Cadillac, we're just ungrateful for what we have. We're coming to you telling you, this is broken, and it's broken in horrible ways that is making our offices unable to do the jobs we have. And I think the best demonstration of that is the fact that you've seen 2 offices splinter off and invest close to $200,000 in their own money for different software. We didn't do that because we like throwing money around. I mean, there's a lot of other places that money could be spent. We did that because we didn't have a choice. And so I really want to make sure that we convey that to you. It's not lazy employees upstairs who just want to click a button so that they don't have to do some extra steps. It's these things that we need to do by clicking buttons are basic fundamental parts of what we do, and we're struggling to get them done in the current system. So thank you for your time.
One thing that nobody has mentioned was access. Will the public
Oh,
have access to
Yes.
this?
yes, there is better and improved public access. It is, so it's limited, of course.
Yes.
And so there are, and Sherry can probably speak to a lot of this better than I can, but y'all can actually look at other counties and the public records online through Tyler and Odyssey. Tom Green County is online, and there's a public portal you can go see.
Johnson County, Denton County, all of those have their public access site available. You can go on there and if you happen
It's
to know
limited
anything.
It is
access.
very limited access.
I mean, there's always certain things they can see,
Correct.
and they can't make any additions or
Right.
anything else. It's just a look on it.
Right.
Or read only.
So the basic gist, I believe, behind the clerk's side is anything that's a public record
Right.
becomes available for the public to view.
So that would mitigate the need for people to come to this building.
Right.
And I'm trying to understand how we're gonna justify using COVID, funds for it.
Sure.
You see where I'm coming from. So I've gotta be able to explain that to the public, how we're justifying using that money.
When we talk about transparency, when we talk about public access, the amount of public access to the criminal justice system will dramatically increase for every one of the constituents. They will have the ability to, from wherever they are, if they're quarantined, if they are working from home, they'll have the ability to get online, open up a web page, go to the website that is hosted by Odyssey. We don't have to do the web development, we don't do any of that, it's all through Odyssey. And look up a case they may be involved in. I believe they can look up court dates. They can look up court dates. So, if you have defendants, they can look up and see when they need to be there. If you've got bond companies that need to find out a court date. If you have civil cases and you've got, you got a divorce case, somebody needs a copy of their divorce decree from 10 years ago, you look it up and get it online, print it out, decreases traffic through the courthouse.
We can't do that now. I'm
No,
sorry.
oh, no, there's
I
no.
remember, Judge Ellis told me he had a custody hearing at one point. And one of the parties was in Minnesota.
Right.
But they could, even being in Minnesota, they could look and see what was, all the pertinent information about that case. But Judge Ellis was saying they were having a Zoom hearing. And I think it's some other, was in Minnesota, and just raising all kinds of cane and gestures and everything else. So, I mean, there's nothing the judge can do about it. There's still be nothing they can do about it. They just mute them and
Right,
go on.
right.
But,
I mean, I think the relevant
but
portion
they
of
didn't
that.
have to come from Minnesota
Right.
to hear for the hearing, but through this Odyssey, they wouldn't even have to come to look at the
Paperwork.
paperwork.
That's right.
And if we have employees that are quarantined at home or staying at home for safety reasons, they'll be able to access this as well.
Yes, and I think that was something that we didn't really discuss during this meeting. We talked about it before. Net data, you have to be in the courthouse on premises to use. You cannot So if the judge's office is quarantined, they won't be able to access the files from home through net data. And so we did some Zoom hearings. Thankfully, our office, the software we use, we can access it offsite. And so we were able to kind of patch things together during the worst of the quarantine, but it was very much patched together. It was, people would come up after hours to grab the physical files so that they wouldn't expose people, which, there is at least some level of exposure still in that. Take the files home, have them at home, which honestly I think is a much bigger concern record retention wise. The dog ate my homework. We joke about that, but you take a court file home and somebody's dog does eat the court file, we're in a world of hurt. That doesn't happen in a world where we have software where you can access a file at home while you're quarantined, get on Zoom, and one of the things to remember is a lot of us went through quarantines where we weren't sick, we could work. The schools had a lot of mandatory quarantines where I know I had to stay home several days where Scott and I had to trade off. He would stay home with our daughter some and I would stay home with her. And I was getting online and working from home, holding hearings because I felt fine. I wasn't sick. And the whole courthouse needs that ability. And I think that's a big reason why we can explain that we come under the COVID Relief Act is that and another aspect of it, Cheryl mentioned, we all go off-site to pick a jury for jury trials. That is COVID caused. There's no reason for that other than we have to distance more than we can in the courthouse. When she was talking about doing jury shuffles, I don't want to take more of your time, but I think it's important for you to understand this process because this explains how it's COVID related. When we go off-site to do jury trials, she has to go over there, physically check all the jurors in, bring all of the cards, the paper cards that we use because we're not electronic, back to the courthouse. Come over here, go through all of her processes with that, physically carry the paperwork back to the off-site location. And then, if somebody requests a jury shuffle, which is entitled under law, you cannot stop it, it is the defense right. They've done it a couple times since we've been off-site. She has to take all of that she's just done, come back to the courthouse again, shuffle it again, and go back to the on-site location again. What she was describing to you, the reason why it was important is she was saying it's just a click of a button to do that in Odyssey software is, think about an hour of travel time spent back and forth. The resources of everybody, because remember, you're paying jurors by the day. So you have all those jurors sitting there doing nothing, waiting on us to be able to start, and we cannot start until that shuffle is completed. And we're paying them to be there. It's a lot of resources that go into that process that are incredibly inefficient. And so, when you think about how much that improves the process, this isn't a let's change for the sake of change. It's a let's change because this is really, really much smarter, more intelligent, a better process across the board.
So with Odyssey, Cheryl, all Cheryl has to take is your laptop.
Your laptop and a little portable printer, you're good.
You go there and do it.
Right. And so I think that directly ties it into the COVID question is the only reason we're over there is because of COVID. So if we can make that process better, and I'll tell y'all, I don't speak for the judges are in control of the decision to be over there, but based on the discussions that I'm hearing, I don't think we will be able to move back over to the courthouse anytime soon. I don't see that as a
Not for
realistic option.
selection.
Not for jury selection, right?
But you're having,
We come back for the trial portion.
Yeah.
Right.
you've got 100 people from the prospective juror, and then you go through that selection.
Right. Given
You're at Coggin,
yes, sir. Coggin has actually been the best location.
whatever they call that big auditorium.
Yes, sir. Back to you, sir. Any other questions? Again, thank y'all. I know this is kind of long.
I just want to say Cadillacs give troubles.
They do, and, well, and I do want to be full disclosure, every software company has problems, okay? I mean, the software company that our office went with, we loved them. If they had a court system, we would be in here saying, let's talk to them. But even with them, I mean, there are challenges, there's glitches. I email them and say, hey, we got a problem. The good thing about them is they say, okay, let's see what we can fix. Let's see how we can make it better. That is something that Data has settled up and never
I
done.
just gotta be a small.
I know. Well, I do want to make sure that y'all understand that we're not saying that Tyler and Odyssey is God's gift to the world and can never do anything wrong. I mean, I think there are important contract negotiation discussions to be had and important upfront things to need to know. I mean, they're not perfect, but they are worlds better than where we're at. So, thank you.
Just, I don't think a decision will be made Monday.
So one of the
So,
reasons, and we are fine with drawing a request to be on Monday's agenda. One of the thought processes we had is y'all have a rough number for what we need. We would like to ask that you think through as you're approving other requests that may be able to get to you faster. You know, think through, will this leave enough money for us to be able to consider this when they've gone through the thorough vetting process that needs to be done? And one other thing we didn't mention, I'm sorry, there's so much, I mean, this is a big discussion. One other thing, Tyler and the software is on Sourcewell. Are y'all familiar with Byboard?
Yeah.
Okay. Sourcewell and Byboard.
that's another form of Bible.
Right. And so we have not gone through the formal bid process because of that.
You don't have to.
Right, but I wanted to make sure y'all knew, full disclosure on that. We did not do the formal bid process because they're on Sourcewell, so. So if y'all will just keep enough money available that you can actually.
Is there a
consider
cap
this.
on how much we can spend off Bible?
I mean, you got the credit.
Well, yeah, I've just never, I've made lots of purchases over the years off Byboard, but never one over $1 million. I don't know if
I don't
there's
think
any.
so. I've never heard that. And I will say for what it's worth, that purchasing on Sourcewell gives you a discount.
As for Dallas, I think Dallas would be the one you need to talk to.
I have a couple I can do that have purchased through Sourcewell too.
And if there's other things y'all think about that you want, let me know.
If we gotta put that much money back, I wanna know how much money it is, you know?
I think the rough statement right now, you know, that we're looking at is $1.5 million. There's a lot of give or take in that. I will get you the full financial list as soon, we have to have that discussion with Southern a little bit more before we can actually have a definitive final bid.
And if we were to move forward, what's the approximate date that the first payment of that would be? You said it'd be spread over 3 years.
Yeah, so we can be pretty flexible on that. And so if you had specific requests on when we started the annual fees, we can put that into the contract.
No, I'm talking about the 1.5 million.
So the project cost would start probably within the first couple of months, maybe the first 3 months is when you would start seeing initial invoices for the project costs. And we can kind of map that out so that you can expect, hey, during this budget year, this is about how much we're going to spend on the project, and then moving forward.
The reason I ask, as y'all know, is because we don't get our second disbursement of the ARP money until next summer.
And we're pretty flexible on that stuff too, because we do have a lot of counties that are using the American Rescue Funds for this because it does fall within a lot of the guidelines. And so we've written that into a lot of contract terms about how the invoicing will work. And so if you have specific requests on that, we can work with it.
Because we really don't have an exact date when that's gonna be happen. It may be spring, summer, or way the good work, maybe it's sometime after the first of next year.
All they said was after the first 2 years. We don't know.
But we're flexible on those.
And
Thank you.
we didn't jump into the specifics of why we're trying to come under that. I think y'all know. I mean, we just alleviating, like, I think Tony, when he said, you know, that this cost will be coming to the county eventually, and it's only going to grow at some point in time. I think, you know, alleviate that burden off of the taxpayers. That's a great benefit to all of the constituents. Is, you know, let's not put that on their backs. Let's try and take that cost off.
Okay.
All right, let's go.
I think, just for the record, I think we're sitting at about 1.7 million balance after our first, just 11 commissioners now, so, on the ARP funds. That's what we have remaining after the first disbursement, just letting you know. Now, there's requests for that money, as you know, you've already heard them, so.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, any questions? Okay, I'll declare us adjourned. Thank you.